So what we are looking at here is an absolutely gorgeous example of the AMD Radeon 7970. Shall I say the HD 7970? They were still calling them HD back then. I think HD? Yep, HD 7970 says on the thing. So I just want to talk a little bit about this video card. It's a very cool card. I think that this is a card that's going to have a particular relevance to those who watch the AMD versus Nvidia rivalry today, because this was I believe the last time, I'm trying to think. Yeah, this card went up against the GTX 680. I would argue this won. This card actually, even though it originally went up against the GTX 680, this card really performed more in line with the GTX 780. In fact, even though I think this was like 6 months before the 780, something like that. This card so most GTX 680s had 2 gigs of RAM. There were a few specialty units that had 4, but that was very rare. These were standard 3 gigs of RAM. So a standard 7970 had more video RAM than a standard GTX 680. And again, it performed, especially a few years later. Unfortunately, AMD always has a habit of doing that. They sell their video cards on a promise that it will eventually catch up and beat Nvidia. But the problem is, the buyer that buys the card brand new doesn't care what it can do 3 years from now. Generally speaking, buyers who buy video cards brand new, really, in my opinion, generally, especially high-end cards. This was a high-end card at the time, although I don't remember MSRP. My guess would be somewhere in the neighborhood of $399 or $499, but I didn't look. Typically buyers that are going to spend that much money on a video card are going to buy new every couple of generations. At the very least, stay reasonably current. So I don't think that the gain is the greatest for buyers, although who it is good for is people like me who sell pre-owned computers, because it allows me to go buy an older card that hits the same performance threshold, which can result in a cheaper computer. This was this and the HD 7950, which was also 3 gigs, were one of my go-to options for a couple of years. There was a couple of years, especially during the first GPU apocalypse, shall we call it? During that period of time, this was a card that could be typically obtained for a reasonable price. And actually, the 7970 is still relevant today, just barely. You can get this to run a lot of modern stuff. There's a lot of modern stuff that'll run on this card. It's getting to the very end, I would say 6 months, maybe, before this is totally irrelevant, but this can still play some modern stuff. I've done some stuff on it, and it's not bad, especially if you pair it with a reasonably fast CPU. Definitely a CPU that's faster than this card would have originally paired with. It'll run quite well. But anyway, I thought you guys might like a look at this. Another dinosaur of a video card. And I'll keep this one short and sweet. Thanks for watching the video.